In Allegheny County, Pittsburgh and its surrounding area, there are around 1.2 million people, according to the 2022 census. And around 900,000 of those people voted in the 2023 election, according to the PA DOS website. That means about 27% of the population did not vote. I have one simple question to ask. Why don't people vote? Is it our two-party system and the limitations it can create? Is it the feeling that when you vote sometimes it feels like it's not doing anything? I wanted to find out what people actually thought about this, not just what we assume from social media and what it tells us. Because it was hard to find people who did not vote, I started by asking those who voted this past November 7th in Allegheny County why they did.
The reason why I do is because I'm a woman and I wasn't always able to vote. And I think a lot of the times it just gets overlooked because people don't do the research as to what it affects. Our town, like city council and, the judges, it matters through Planned Parenthood, it matters through a lot of different things on a small scale, even more so, I think, than presidency.
Well, civic duty, and I just want to make sure Democrats get elected and doing everything I can to make sure that happens.
If you don't vote, you don't get to complain about your government. And I will complain when it's inappropriate, and so I vote to make sure that I have my say in who gets elected.
I voted today because I think local elections are very important. They have, I feel like, more direct impact on our day-to-day lives than most things at the federal level, just with how stuck up things are in Washington at the moment. So definitely, for me, mainly I just want to see more bike lanes, more apartments here in Pittsburgh, and I think the election today really might be able to move the needle just a little bit on those issues.
I voted today because there is it's complex, but one, it is something that is not as common as we all think, right? The right to be able to vote, and to do so in a manner that's so safe and convenient and with complete surety that your vote's being counted, right? It's a very rare thing to be able to have.
You're saying like as opposed to other countries? Or
as opposed to, not just other countries, but opposed to, time, right? Look at the history of humanity, which is pretty short, the last 200,000 years, right? It's been hard to have a democratic voice, right? It's been hard to build something like this, not just juxtaposed against the current environment, but look back 200,000 years, since we've been here. This is a rare thing, and it's working. And it's an honor and a privilege and a responsibility to recognize that and act on it.
So it looks like a lot of people vote for different reasons. But now the question is, why don't some people vote? I asked if they knew anyone who didn't vote on November 7th. Here's what they said.
I know a whole lot of people who probably didn't vote today. They think their vote doesn't matter, and it does. On every level, local, state, is important to vote in all elections, because when things don't happen, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a Democrat. I don't like Republicans. I don't like their values, their morals, especially since Donald Trump then took over all of them, and they're taking away women's rights. They're trying to take SNAP benefits, Social Security, disability. This is money that we worked for already, and now they want to try to take it away. So I say, give me all my money back that y'all took out.
I do know people who miss elections or opt not to vote. I've spent a lot of time working politically, not just as a legislator, but as an activist, trying to get people to come out and vote and support candidates who I support, and sometimes it's frustrating when people just don't want to participate in this system, because the only way our democracy survives is that citizens participate and validate it, and that's the process of voting.
They don't think their vote will matter. They either live in districts or areas that are heavily if they are on the left, they live in a district that's heavily right. If they're heavily right, they live in districts that are heavily left. So they feel it's a waste of their time because no matter what, it's going to go the other way. So they choose not to vote.
So I've been out canvassing, knocking on doors for some of these candidates here, like Sarah Namorato and Matt Dugan. And so, yeah, knocking on doors for people that we have in our systems as registered Democrats or independents. Sometimes, like a couple times in my neighborhood, I have run into people who at the door are like, oh, I'm registered to vote, but I don't vote anymore. And so at that point, I kind of get it a little bit because especially with like, it's definitely changed in the last 5 years with the Democrats that we have on the ballot. They are definitely more active, more vocal here. I feel like for things that impact our day-to-day lives, but at the same time, just to tacitly support people associated with the two-party system that we have, I understand why people would not want to vote in that system.
Town. So I think a lot of people don't vote because they think it's not important or it doesn't affect them. But these elections are what does affect it. It affects what judges push certain things through, what gets funding. I've been reading up on the different candidates and they're talking about homelessness. I work in downtown Pittsburgh, so homelessness is a really big issue. Housing and people getting kicked out of their homes, getting funding through different projects, whether it be like the opioid crisis or rehab facilities or just housing vouchers. I mean, winter's coming up, and a lot of the times if people don't have the resources that they need or the funding that they need, they're not gonna have any chance of making their lives better. And that's really important to these elections, is to change those things. And a lot of the times I think people don't vote because they're not seeing the issues, or they're looking away from the issues, and they think that because it doesn't affect them, that kind of trickle down thing. If you're in a certain place and you're comfortable, that means that you don't necessarily see people who aren't comfortable, and how it might affect you.
I know of a lot of people actually, and the reason why they're not voting is because they are way too comfortable, right? They're way too comfortable with what their life is, right? And they haven't faced that moment in their life, which everyone usually has, right? Where things kind of go sideways, right? And you start saying, oh, maybe things aren't as comfortable as I thought. Right, maybe I should be looking into things a little bit deeper. Maybe I should be participating a little bit more, right? And there's a tremendous amount of nepotism that leads to that, right? There is, right? People who grew up sheltered, doesn't require money, right? But sheltered from the bad, right? Didn't have, or difference, whatever it may be, different things out there, usually don't look at voting as something as that it can affect their life, or it's beneath them, I think, unfortunately, right?
They kind of hold themselves up higher than it doesn't.
Well, they think they do, right? They
do.
think they have this moral high ground, right? Or this self-righteousness, or the ivory tower, if you will, And then something occurs, And I have a situation, friend who has a transgender child, right? And it changed their entire way of thinking, right? And now they're advocating something, right, that they believe in, And I don't think they voted before that. I know they didn't.
Obviously, the people they are talking about probably care about what affects them. But the question now is, how do you get those people who don't vote to vote?
Doing more things socially, like getting out and what you're doing right now, seeing what knowledge people have, even like spreading it, like I said, through social media, or having meetups, like even like little pop-ups to talk to people, especially like over in the universities and stuff, having like open chats with people, or making like the people that we're voting for readily available to the public so that they can speak and people can hear what they have to say.
I think just more openness in our elections, especially here in Pennsylvania. We have these closed primaries where only people registered with a specific party can vote for specific candidates. So back in May this year, we had the Democratic primary where people on the ballot today got the privilege to be on the ballot today. And so I think if we had open primaries that could get more people involved who aren't necessarily want to be registered as a Democrat or registered as an independent, who don't want to like make that choice. We could still get their input on which candidates they would like to see on the ballot, and hopefully bring some more people, bring some more perspectives in that way.
Really, they have to, some kind of way, get it, they got to pull that together themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done a lot of talking about how important it is to vote. You got to think about not this generation, but the ones coming behind us. You know, like my 3-year-old granddaughter, she's 6, I'm sorry, my 6-year-old granddaughter. Like, what's it going to be like after I'm dead and gone and she's still here? You know what I mean? So you got to think about that. And you just got to know what's really happening. Do your research.
If they thought that their vote would actually make a difference in the overall outcome, yeah, probably, maybe. But then again, these are also people that probably haven't voted in 10, 15 years, so I don't see them necessarily changing.
There are many reasons for people who don't vote. I mean, I talk to many people who think it doesn't matter, that it doesn't matter what party or what person takes office. Some people think the system is corrupt. Some people think that, you know, you can't get, the outside interests have too much influence, and it doesn't matter who you elect, that those outside interests basically dominated, so they opt. It's in a very cynical way to say, I'm just not going to participate in that. Clearly there are problems in a democracy, always. But I think it doesn't help a situation where you're not going to participate in it, just ignore it, because then it lets those outside interests have more influence than they would otherwise have if you're not participating yourself. People are busy. Many people don't have the luxury of taking an extra hour to vote. And in a presidential election, if you're voting in person, in the last several presidential elections, I mean, you have lines of people waiting to get in to cast their ballots that sometimes take an hour or two. I think there are a number of things. Making it easier to vote is one thing. I think that, sometimes it's people perceive it as being inconvenient or difficult. That the voter registration process is cumbersome. I don't personally believe that. So we're looking at ways to make it easier all the time. That's part, I think, of the debate. I mean, we have now a way to vote absentee that basically. You don't need an excuse. You can get a mail-in ballot if you like, to make it easier, and you can have it automatically sent to you.
From what they've said, it sounds like it's easier than ever to go out and vote. You can vote in person, you can vote by mail. And yes, the system isn't perfect. Having two main parties, for example, doesn't always provide the best candidates. There's a whole subsection of people that literally can't vote for other reasons. And obviously I wasn't able to talk to them, but if there's one thing that you leave this video with, let it be this. If you are able to vote, then vote. It won't hurt you. And it's not necessarily meaningless. This is an insanely small power that we have as Americans, but it's so important and it's so vital to our society. It has the potential to change the world. It's so important, in fact, that people have fought and died for the right to vote. We have to take advantage of the fact that we're in a democracy and we need to respect it, we need to cherish it. Just go vote.